Have you ever wondered what separates great thinkers from the rest of us? What if I told you that the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of the world isn't found in memorizing facts or following the crowd, but rather in the simple act of asking questions? That's right. Asking the right questions has the power to transform your life, your decisions, and the way you view the world. Welcome to today's video, where we dive deep into one of the most powerful tools ever used by thinkers throughout history, the Socratic Method. A method that doesn't simply teach you answers, but teaches you how to think, how to question, and how to challenge your assumptions. Imagine if you could uncover hidden truths, discover new perspectives, and make more informed decisions all through the power of a single question. In this video, we will explore how Socrates, over 2,000 years ago, used the art of questioning to unlock wisdom, develop critical thinking, and encourage others to seek knowledge in their own lives. And the best part? This method isn't just for philosophers or scholars. It's something you can apply every single day in your own personal and professional life. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can asking questions change the way I see the world? How do I begin applying the Socratic Method to my life? Well, stick around. And even in moments of personal growth. Before we dive in, if you're excited to explore the transformative power of questioning, don't forget to hit the like button. Share this video with someone who could benefit from this timeless wisdom, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives like this. Also, if you enjoy the content and want to support the channel, feel free to donate via Super Thanks. Your support helps keep this channel going strong and allows us to continue creating high-quality, thought-provoking videos. Now, let's take a journey into the heart of the Socratic Method and uncover how this simple act of questioning can open doors to wisdom, clarity, and better decision-making. Have you ever thought about the power of asking questions? In fact, you might learn more by asking the right questions than by simply answering them. This concept forms the foundation of the Socratic Method, a timeless approach to learning and self-discovery that has shaped the way we think for centuries. But what makes this method so powerful? And how can it help develop independent thinking and uncover the truth? The Socratic Method is named after Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher whose ideas continue to influence education, philosophy, and the way we approach critical thinking. Unlike traditional teachers who give answers to their students, Socrates took a different route. He did not provide direct answers. Instead, he encouraged his students to engage in a deep dialogue that led them to draw their own conclusions. This method of inquiry was designed to stimulate critical thinking, question assumptions, and ultimately reach a deeper understanding of the world around us. At the heart of the Socratic Method is a simple yet profound technique: asking questions, rather than presenting facts. Socrates used a series of probing questions to guide his students through a process of self-reflection. He believed that through questioning, people could examine their beliefs, challenge their assumptions, and refine their understanding of various concepts. Socrates was more interested in the process of thinking than in finding definitive answers. His goal was to help individuals reach their own conclusions through thoughtful and deliberate inquiry. One of the key reasons the Socratic Method is so effective is that it encourages independent thinking. In many traditional learning environments, students are often passive recipients of information. They listen to the teacher's explanations, memorize facts, and are tested on their ability to recall that information. However, this approach does not necessarily cultivate the ability to think critically or to question what is being taught. The Socratic Method, on the other hand, flips this model on its head. It empowers students to take an active role in their learning by prompting them to question, analyze, and reflect on their beliefs and ideas. This process not only enhances their understanding of the subject matter, but also encourages them to become more self-reliant thinkers who are capable of applying their knowledge in real-world situations. For example, imagine a high school history teacher discussing the causes of World War I. Instead of merely listing the events and explaining their significance, the teacher could ask the students to consider questions like, what role do alliances play in conflicts? Or, how does nationalism influence the decisions of leaders? These questions would prompt students to think beyond the textbook and engage with the material on a deeper level. By analyzing the causes of the war through the lens of these questions, students would be forced to think critically about the factors that contributed to the outbreak of the conflict, rather than simply memorizing a list of events. The Socratic method also helps uncover the truth by encouraging individuals to examine the validity of their own beliefs. Socrates was famous for challenging his students to question their assumptions and reevaluate their understanding of concepts. In one of his most famous dialogues, he converses with a man named Euthyphro about the nature of piety. Euthyphro claims to know exactly what is pious, but Socrates pushes him to define the term more precisely. Through a series of questions, Socrates reveals the contradictions in Euthyphro's reasoning, showing that his understanding of piety is not as clear-cut as he initially believed. This process of questioning and challenging assumptions is a key component of the Socratic method, as it helps individuals arrive at a more refined and accurate understanding of complex ideas. The beauty of this method lies in its openness to dialogue. Unlike traditional teaching methods, which often rely on one-way communication, the Socratic method fosters a dynamic exchange of ideas between the teacher and the student. This dialogue encourages active participation, where both parties contribute to the conversation and explore the subject matter from multiple angles. The result is a deeper and more nuanced understanding of the topic at hand, as well as a greater appreciation for the complexity of the issues being discussed. Another example of how the Socratic method can be applied in real life is in the workplace. Imagine a manager asking a team member, "What do you think is the best way to improve our customer service?" Instead of providing an immediate answer, the manager could continue to ask questions that help the team member think through the issue. For instance, they might ask, "What are the specific challenges we face in customer service?" Or, "How can we measure whether our improvements are effective?" By encouraging the team member to think critically about the problem, the manager is not only fostering independent thinking, but also helping them take ownership of the solution. This approach can lead to more creative ideas and better decision-making, as the team member has actively participated in finding the solution rather than simply being told what to do. The Socratic method is also incredibly valuable in personal development. In our daily lives, we often hold beliefs that are shaped by our upbringing, culture, or social circles. However, these beliefs may not always be well thought out or aligned with our true values. By applying the Socratic method to our own lives, we can begin to question the assumptions we have about ourselves and the world around us. For example, if someone believes that success is defined solely by wealth, they might ask themselves, "What does success truly mean to me?" Or, "Are there other ways to measure success beyond financial wealth?" Through this process of questioning, individuals can gain a clearer sense of their own values and goals, leading to a more fulfilling and authentic life. In essence, the Socratic method is not just a teaching tool, but a way of thinking that can be applied in various contexts, from education to the workplace to personal development. It encourages individuals to embrace curiosity, challenge their assumptions, and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. By asking the right questions, we can unlock new insights, spark creativity, and ultimately uncover the truth. The beauty of the Socratic method is that it does not provide easy answers. Instead, it encourages us to grapple with complex questions, think critically, and arrive at our own conclusions. This process of self-discovery is what makes the Socratic method so powerful. It helps us grow intellectually, emotionally, and morally. In a world where information is abundant, but true understanding is often elusive, the Socratic method offers a timeless path to wisdom. By embracing this method, we can cultivate independent thinking, engage in meaningful dialogue, and ultimately discover the truth for ourselves. The Socratic method, a cornerstone of ancient philosophy, remains one of the most powerful tools for teaching, learning, and critical thinking even in modern times. At its core, It is a method of inquiry and discussion that encourages students to think for themselves, rather than relying on external authorities for answers. Socrates, one of the most influential philosophers in history, did not believe in direct teaching or the traditional method of delivering facts to students. Instead, he used a form of questioning that allowed his students to uncover knowledge on their own, helping them to develop independent thought and critical reasoning skills. This method is far more than just asking questions. It is a way of engaging with knowledge, challenging assumptions, and refining one's understanding of the world. Socrates believed that the act of teaching was not about transferring information from a teacher to a student, but rather about guiding the student to discover truths on their own. The role of the teacher, in this case Socrates, was to ask insightful and sometimes challenging questions that encourage the student to think deeply and critically about the subject at hand. This process helped the student arrive at a deeper understanding, not simply by absorbing facts, but by actively engaging with those facts, questioning their validity, and exploring different perspectives. A typical Socratic dialogue would begin with Socrates asking a question that seemed simple but was, in fact, quite complex. For instance, he might ask, "What is justice?" or "What is virtue?" These questions, though seemingly straightforward, force the student to consider the full scope of what they understand about the concepts being discussed. They are not questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no, but instead require reflection and reasoning. Socrates would then follow up with more questions designed to probe the student's answer and test its validity. If the student offered an answer, Socrates would ask them to explain why they held that belief and how they arrived at it. This process was not designed to shame the student or to prove them wrong, but rather to push them to think critically about their assumptions and to refine their understanding of the topic. By continuously asking questions and challenging the student's beliefs, Socrates created a dialogue that encouraged the student to think more deeply and to arrive at more refined conclusions. One of the most significant aspects of the Socratic Method is its focus on critical thinking. Rather than simply accepting what is told to them, students are encouraged to question everything, even their own assumptions. This process of questioning and examination is essential for the development of critical thinking skills. Through Socratic questioning, students learn to identify weaknesses in their arguments, recognize inconsistencies in their reasoning, and refine their ideas until they arrive at a more solid and well-supported conclusion. The method of questioning used by Socrates is often referred to as elenchus or the Socratic elenchus. This is a form of cross-examination in which Socrates would ask a series of questions designed to expose contradictions in the student's beliefs. For example, if a student defined justice as giving people what they deserve, Socrates might follow up by asking, "But what if someone deserves to be punished for a crime they committed? Is punishment a form of justice?" This line of questioning would continue until the student either revised their definition or realized that their initial understanding was incomplete. One of the most powerful aspects of the Socratic Method is that it forces students to confront their own ignorance. Socrates famously said that he knew only that he knew nothing, and through his questioning, he helped others come to the same realization. By continuously asking questions that challenged the student's assumptions, Socrates made it clear that knowledge is not something that can be passively received, but something that must be actively sought and critically examined. This process helps students develop a sense of intellectual humility and a recognition that their knowledge is always limited and subject to refinement. The questions that Socrates used were not arbitrary. They were carefully chosen to lead the student to a deeper understanding of the subject matter. For example, one of Socrates' most famous questions was, "What is the truth?" This seemingly simple question forces the student to think about the nature of truth itself. What does it mean for something to be true? How do we know that something is true? Is truth subjective, or is it objective? These are complex philosophical questions that require deep reflection and reasoning. By repeatedly asking such questions, Socrates helped his students engage with the topic on a much deeper level than if they had simply memorized a list of facts or definitions. Similarly, another common question in the Socratic method is, how do we know what is right? This question challenges students to consider the basis for their moral beliefs and to think about the criteria by which they judge right and wrong. It forces them to question whether their moral beliefs are based on reason, tradition, or mere emotion. Are moral standards universal, or are they culturally relative? What makes an action morally right or wrong? Again, these are not questions that have simple answers, but by engaging with them, students can develop a deeper understanding of ethics and morality. What makes the Socratic method particularly valuable is that it encourages self-examination. It is not enough to simply accept answers from others. Students must engage with the material themselves, think critically about it, and come to their own conclusions. This self-examination is a crucial aspect of developing intellectual maturity and autonomy. It helps individuals develop the ability to think for themselves, make their own decisions, and critically evaluate the world around them. In today's world, the Socratic method is as relevant as ever. In many aspects of modern life, from education to politics to personal relationships, critical thinking is more important than ever. The ability to question assumptions, challenge established beliefs, and think deeply about complex issues is essential for making informed decisions and navigating the complexities of modern society. The Socratic method, with its emphasis on questioning and dialogue, provides a powerful tool for developing these critical thinking skills. Take, for instance, a situation in a classroom where a teacher asks, "What does freedom mean?" At first glance, it might seem like a simple question with an obvious answer. But through the Socratic method, the teacher might ask follow-up questions that challenge students to think more deeply about the concept of freedom. Is freedom the same for everyone? Is freedom a right? Or is it something that must be earned? How do we balance freedom with responsibility? By guiding students through a series of questions, the teacher encourages them to explore the complexities of freedom and to recognize that it is not a concept that can be easily defined or understood. The Socratic method can also be applied to contemporary issues, such as political debates. Politicians and leaders often rely on rhetoric and persuasive arguments to make their case. But these arguments are not always based on solid reasoning or evidence. The Socratic method can help people critically evaluate the arguments being made and ask questions that expose weaknesses or inconsistencies in those arguments. For example, during a debate about climate change, a participant might ask, "What evidence do we have to support the claim that human activity is causing global warming?" Or, what are the potential consequences of ignoring the issue? These questions force participants to engage with the evidence and think critically about the implications of their beliefs and actions. Ultimately, the Socratic method is about cultivating a mindset of curiosity and intellectual humility. It encourages individuals to be open to new ideas, to question their assumptions, and to engage in thoughtful, reasoned dialogue. By using questioning as a tool for exploration, Socrates fostered a deeper understanding of complex issues and helped individuals refine their thinking. This approach to learning and inquiry is as valuable today as it was in ancient Greece, providing a timeless method for developing independent thought, critical reasoning, and intellectual growth. Through the Socratic method, we can all learn to ask better questions and, in doing so, gain a deeper understanding of the world around us. One of the most famous examples of Socrates using his method of questioning to explore philosophical concepts is the dialogue between Socrates and Euthyphro, a story that has become a staple in the study of the Socratic method. This dialogue, written by Plato, centers on the concept of piety or holiness, which in ancient Greece was considered one of the key virtues a person could possess. Euthyphro, a self-assured young man, claims to know exactly what piety is, and he believes that his understanding of the concept is so clear that he is willing to accuse his own father of impiety. This bold claim is what draws Socrates into the conversation with him. Socrates, as he often did, begins by questioning Euthyphro's belief. The conversation begins with Socrates asking a simple question: what is piety? Euthyphro, confident in his knowledge, responds by defining piety as what is loved by the gods. Socrates, however, sees an opportunity to probe deeper into this definition. He doesn't just accept it at face value. Instead, he presses Euthyphro to explain further, asking, is what is loved by the gods pious because the gods love it, or do the gods love it because it is pious? This is where Socrates begins to employ his method of inquiry. His question challenges the underlying assumption in Euthyphro's answer and introduces a significant philosophical problem. Euthyphro's initial definition suggests that piety is simply what the gods love, but Socrates immediately points out a potential contradiction. If the gods love something because it is pious, then there must be a standard of piety that exists independently of the gods. On the other hand, if something is pious simply because the gods love it, then piety is arbitrary, dependent solely on the gods' preferences, which could change at any time. Socrates doesn't stop there. He continues to ask more probing questions to challenge Euthyphro's understanding, forcing him to reconsider his original position. By doing so, Socrates is guiding Euthyphro through a process of self-examination. Through this method of questioning, Euthyphro is not being handed the answer directly. Rather, he is being led to uncover the limitations of his own knowledge. Socrates' questions expose the contradictions in Euthyphro's reasoning, leading him to doubt the certainty with which he first made his claims. At this point in the dialogue, Euthyphro begins to falter, as he realizes that his understanding of piety is far more complicated than he originally thought. He starts to give a series of increasingly convoluted definitions in an attempt to address Socrates' questions. But none of these definitions resolve the contradictions that Socrates has pointed out. The more Socrates questions Euthyphro, the more his confidence begins to waver, and the more the young man realizes that he cannot define piety in any simple or straightforward way. This dialogue demonstrates the essence of the Socratic method, the use of questioning to draw out the inconsistencies in someone's beliefs and to guide them toward a deeper understanding. Socrates does not simply tell Euthyphro what piety is. He encourages him to think critically about the concept and to realize the limitations of his knowledge. The conversation ultimately leaves Euthyphro in a state of confusion and uncertainty. But it is this uncertainty that, in Socratic terms, is the beginning of true knowledge. What makes this story so instructive is that it illustrates how the right questions can not only expose contradictions in our thinking, but also challenge us to rethink our assumptions. Euthyphro's inability to provide a satisfactory definition of piety highlights the importance of engaging in self-reflection and questioning our own beliefs. In this case, the Socratic questioning doesn't offer Euthyphro a clear answer, but it does force him to confront the gaps in his understanding and to acknowledge that his knowledge is incomplete. This process of self-discovery, even if it leaves us in a state of uncertainty, is, according to Socrates, a necessary step toward acquiring true wisdom. The dialogue also provides a valuable lesson about the nature of knowledge itself. Socrates' method reveals that knowledge is not something that can be easily defined or handed down from authority figures. Instead, knowledge is something that must be actively pursued and critically examined. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with information, the Socratic method reminds us that we should not accept things at face value or simply believe what we are told. Rather, we must question, analyze, and probe deeper to arrive at a more accurate and thoughtful understanding of the truth. The story of Socrates and Euthyphro also teaches us about the importance of intellectual humility. Socrates famously claimed that he knew nothing, and through his questioning, he helped others to realize their own ignorance. This is perhaps one of the most important aspects of the Socratic method. It forces individuals to confront the limits of their own knowledge and to recognize that, in the grand scheme of things, we all have much to learn. The process of questioning and challenging our assumptions may leave us with more questions than answers, But this uncertainty is not something to fear. Instead, it is an opportunity for growth and intellectual development. The lesson of questioning assumptions and embracing uncertainty is highly relevant in today's world. In many areas of life, from politics to science to personal beliefs, we often hold views that are shaped by external influences, whether that be our upbringing, our culture, or the media we consume. These views are not always critically examined, and we may not always be aware of the contradictions that exist within our own thinking. Socrates' dialogue with Euthyphro serves as a reminder that we should not take our beliefs for granted. Instead, we should engage in a constant process of self-examination and reflection to ensure that our understanding is grounded in reason and evidence, not just assumptions or traditions. For example, consider the modern debate over climate change. There are many people who deny the existence of human-caused climate change, often because of their political beliefs or personal interests. In this case, the Socratic Method can be applied by asking a series of questions to challenge the assumptions behind these beliefs. Questions such as what evidence supports the claim that human activity is driving climate change, or what are the long-term consequences of ignoring scientific consensus? These questions force individuals to confront their assumptions and to reconsider their views in light of the available evidence. By engaging in this kind of questioning, we can move beyond surface-level opinions and engage in a deeper, more thoughtful analysis of complex issues. The Socratic Method, as illustrated in the dialogue between Socrates and Euthyphro, provides a powerful tool for intellectual growth. It encourages us to question our assumptions, examine our beliefs, and think critically about the world around us. While the process may not always lead to immediate answers or certainty, it is through this process of inquiry that we can uncover the truth, refine our understanding, and ultimately develop a more sophisticated and nuanced view of the world. Just as Socrates led Euthyphro to realize the limitations of his knowledge, we too can use the Socratic Method to challenge our own beliefs and achieve a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. In doing so, we move closer to the ideal of true wisdom, which is not the possession of definitive answers, but the ability to ask the right questions and engage in thoughtful reflection. The act of asking questions is fundamental to the process of learning and acquiring knowledge. It is not simply a tool for gathering information, but a powerful means of enhancing critical thinking, deepening understanding, and fostering intellectual growth. In both personal development and academic contexts, the ability to ask insightful questions can significantly shape how one engages with the world and solves problems. Understanding the importance of asking questions is central to developing a mindset of curiosity and inquiry, which can lead to greater insight, creativity, and ultimately, wisdom. At its core, the act of asking a question is an invitation to engage with the world in a way that challenges existing assumptions. When we ask questions, we are not just seeking answers. We are actively engaging in a process of discovery. This engagement is essential for developing the skills of critical thinking and analysis. The more effectively we ask questions, the more we are able to refine our understanding of complex concepts, test assumptions, and explore different perspectives. In many ways, asking questions is the first step toward intellectual independence. It allows us to break free from conventional thinking and explore new ideas and possibilities. One key reason that questions are so important in the process of learning is that they prompt reflection. Without questions, there is a risk that learning can become a passive process, where information is merely absorbed and memorized without being critically examined. However, by asking questions, we are forced to engage with the material in a deeper way. We are not simply accepting information at face value, but questioning its validity, relevance, and implications. This active engagement helps us to understand the material more thoroughly and ensures that we are not merely accumulating knowledge, but developing the ability to think critically about it. For example, consider a student learning about history. A typical history class might present a narrative of events, such as the causes and consequences of World War II. While the student might be able to memorize the dates and key figures involved, this superficial understanding does not necessarily promote deep learning. However, if the student asks questions like, why did these events unfold the way they did? Or what were the social, political, and economic conditions that led to the war? They are prompted to engage more deeply with the subject matter. These questions encourage the student to look beyond the surface level of the facts and explore the broader context, which leads to a richer understanding of history. Through this process, the student learns not just the what of history, but the how and the why, which ultimately leads to a more comprehensive understanding. The power of asking questions extends beyond academics and can be applied to every area of life. In problem-solving situations, asking the right questions can be the difference between finding a solution and remaining stuck in confusion. For example, a business leader trying to make a strategic decision may ask questions such as, what are the long-term consequences of this decision? Or what are the risks involved? And how can we mitigate them? These questions help the leader evaluate the potential outcomes of the decision and consider factors that may not be immediately apparent. By carefully considering the answers to these questions, the leader can make a more informed and thoughtful decision, rather than rushing into a choice without fully understanding its implications. Questions also play a crucial role in fostering creativity and innovation. When we ask questions that challenge the status quo, we open up new avenues of thought and exploration. In scientific research, for example, asking questions is at the heart of every breakthrough. Scientific progress begins with a question such as, what causes this phenomenon? Or how can we improve this process? These questions drive experimentation and the search for answers. As researchers continue to ask questions, they uncover new insights, develop new theories, and ultimately contribute to the expansion of knowledge. Even in creative fields, the act of asking questions can lead to innovative ideas. An artist, for example, might ask themselves, what happens if I use this material in a new way? Or, how can I express this concept differently? These questions lead to creative experimentation, which often results in groundbreaking works of art. Similarly, in literature, a writer might ask, what if the character takes a completely different path? Or, how can I present this story from a new perspective? These questions push the boundaries of conventional storytelling and encourage the creation of fresh, original content. Beyond problem solving, questioning also plays a critical role in helping individuals understand themselves and their motivations. In personal development, self-inquiry is a tool for introspection and growth. When we ask ourselves, what do I really want in life? Or why do I respond this way in certain situations? We begin to uncover the underlying beliefs and assumptions that shape our actions. This self-awareness is essential for making conscious choices and living a more intentional life. By regularly asking ourselves probing questions, we become more attuned to our values, desires, and goals, which allows us to make decisions that align with our true selves. In addition to prompting reflection, questions also serve as a means of challenging assumptions and uncovering hidden biases. Often, our understanding of the world is shaped by preconceived notions, cultural influences, and societal expectations. These assumptions can limit our ability to see things clearly or to approach problems from different perspectives. By asking questions that challenge these assumptions, we open ourselves up to new ways of thinking and understanding. For example, a person who holds certain political beliefs might ask, what evidence supports my position? Or, how might someone with a different perspective view this issue? These questions can help individuals recognize the limits of their own thinking and broaden their understanding of complex issues. This questioning process is not always easy, and it often leads to discomfort or uncertainty. When we challenge our beliefs or confront difficult questions, we may feel unsure or even threatened. However, this discomfort is often a sign that we are engaging with important issues and growing intellectually. In fact, some of the most profound insights arise from moments of doubt or uncertainty. For example, A person struggling with a difficult decision might feel conflicted, but by asking tough questions about their options, they may gain clarity and insight into what truly matters to them. The discomfort of uncertainty can be a catalyst for personal growth and transformation. One of the key benefits of asking questions is that it encourages an open-minded and inquisitive approach to life. When we ask questions, we are demonstrating curiosity and a willingness to explore new ideas. This openness to new possibilities is essential for learning, innovation, and personal growth. Instead of settling for easy answers or assumptions, we develop the habit of seeking out deeper understanding and questioning what we know. This mindset allows us to approach life with a sense of wonder and discovery, constantly seeking to expand our horizons and challenge our existing beliefs. Moreover, asking questions encourages dialogue and collaboration. In many fields, from science to business to politics, progress is made through collective inquiry and discussion. When individuals come together and ask questions, they share different perspectives and insights, which can lead to more innovative solutions. For example, in a brainstorming session, team members may ask each other questions like, what if we tried this idea in a different way? Or what are some alternatives we haven't considered? The act of asking questions is closely tied to the concept of lifelong learning. Knowledge is not something that is ever fully mastered. It is an ongoing process of discovery and exploration. Asking questions keeps us engaged in the process of learning. It reminds us that there is always more to discover, more to understand, and more to explore. In this way, the habit of asking questions becomes a key component of intellectual and personal fulfillment. In conclusion, the importance of asking questions in the process of learning cannot be overstated. Questions are not just tools for gathering information. They are essential instruments for developing critical thinking, deepening understanding, and fostering intellectual and personal growth. Whether in academic settings, professional environments, or personal development, the ability to ask the right questions opens up new avenues of exploration and insight. By asking questions, we challenge assumptions, examine beliefs, and explore the world in a more thoughtful and engaged way. Through this process of inquiry, we expand our knowledge, sharpen our thinking, and cultivate a mindset of curiosity that enriches every aspect of our lives. The Socratic Method, a teaching strategy pioneered by the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, remains a powerful and relevant tool in the modern educational landscape. Socrates employed a system of asking probing questions rather than delivering direct answers, fostering an environment where students actively engaged with ideas, challenged their assumptions, and discovered knowledge for themselves. This method contrasts sharply with traditional forms of teaching, which often focus on the direct transmission of information from teacher to student. In today's educational system, there is a growing recognition of the importance of inquiry-based learning, and the Socratic Method provides a valuable framework for cultivating critical thinking and deep understanding. Traditional teaching methods, particularly those prevalent in the 19th and 20th centuries, typically emphasize a one-way flow of information. Teachers are seen as the primary sources of knowledge, and students are expected to absorb this knowledge, often through lectures, textbooks, and rote memorization. This approach, while effective in some contexts, can leave little room for student engagement or independent thought. The teacher's role in traditional education is primarily to present information, and the student's role is to listen, memorize, and regurgitate that information when necessary. While this method has served educational systems well for centuries, it tends to promote passive learning, where students may not fully grasp or internalize the material because they are not actively involved in its exploration. In contrast, the Socratic Method flips this traditional model on its head. Socrates, rather than providing answers, focused on asking questions that stimulated deeper thought and encouraged students to reflect on their beliefs and knowledge. This approach promotes active learning, where students are not mere recipients of information, but participants in the learning process. By engaging with the material in a dynamic and interactive way, students are encouraged to think critically, question assumptions, and explore different perspectives. The teacher, in the Socratic tradition, is less of an authority figure delivering knowledge and more of a facilitator guiding the students through a process of intellectual discovery. In the modern classroom, the application of the Socratic method has taken on various forms. One of the most effective ways this method can be used is through discussions and debates. Instead of simply lecturing on a topic, a teacher might present a controversial question or issue and ask students to engage with it. For instance, in a history class discussing World War II, instead of just reciting the causes and events of the war, the teacher might ask, what were the underlying political motivations for the conflict? Or, how might the war have played out differently if different decisions have been made by key leaders? These questions push students to consider the deeper causes of historical events and the complexity of the human factors that drive history. This form of inquiry-based learning encourages students to engage not just with the content, but with each other. Through dialogue and discussion, students can challenge each other's viewpoints, refine their arguments, and arrive at a more nuanced understanding of the topic. The teacher's role in this context is to guide the conversation, ask follow-up questions to encourage further exploration, and ensure that all students have the opportunity to contribute their thoughts. This method encourages collaboration and intellectual curiosity as students work together to explore ideas and solve problems. One of the key advantages of the Socratic method in modern education is its ability to foster critical thinking. In a world where information is constantly changing and evolving, it is no longer enough for students to simply memorize facts. The ability to think critically, analyze information, and evaluate arguments is essential for success in today's society. The Socratic method encourages students to question the validity of information, to seek evidence, and to challenge assumptions. This approach develops the skills needed for independent thought, which are vital not only in academics, but also in professional and personal life. For example, in a science class, rather than simply teaching students the facts about climate change, a teacher using the Socratic method might ask, what evidence supports the claim that human activity is contributing to global warming? Or what alternative explanations might exist for the observed climate trends? These questions challenge students to engage with the evidence, consider different perspectives, and arrive at their own conclusions. This type of inquiry not only deepens students' understanding of the subject matter, but also equips them with the critical thinking skills necessary to engage with complex, real-world issues. The Socratic method can also be highly effective in literature and philosophy classes. Instead of simply analyzing texts for their themes or messages, teachers can use Socratic questioning to help students engage more deeply with the material. For instance, a teacher discussing a novel like To Kill a Mockingbird might ask, what does the book suggest about the nature of morality? Or, how do the characters in the story confront injustice? And what can we learn from their responses? These questions encourage students to think critically about the text, its characters, and its broader social implications. By asking open-ended questions, the teacher invites students to explore different interpretations and make connections between the text and their own experiences. Another example of the Socratic method in action is in a mathematics classroom. Rather than simply providing students with formulas and solutions, a teacher might encourage students to think through the process of solving a problem by asking, why does this formula work? Or, what happens if we change one of the variables in the equation? These questions help students develop a deeper understanding of the mathematical concepts they are learning, rather than just memorizing steps. The teacher's role in this scenario is to guide students through the reasoning process, encouraging them to ask questions, make predictions, and explore different approaches to solving problems. In addition to fostering critical thinking, the Socratic method also promotes active engagement and a deeper sense of ownership over the learning process. In traditional education, students are often passive recipients of knowledge, but the Socratic method encourages them to take an active role in their learning. By asking questions and exploring ideas, students become more invested in their education and are more likely to develop a lifelong love of learning. This sense of ownership over one's learning is essential for cultivating intellectual curiosity and motivation. It also helps students build confidence in their ability to think for themselves and solve problems independently. Moreover, the Socratic method helps to cultivate skills in communication and argumentation. As students engage in discussions and debates, they learn how to articulate their ideas clearly and persuasively, listen to others' viewpoints, and respectfully disagree when necessary. These skills are essential not only for academic success, but also for professional and personal development. In today's world, where collaboration and communication are key to success in virtually every field, the ability to engage in thoughtful, respectful dialogue is a crucial skill. Despite its many advantages, the Socratic method is not without its challenges. For one, it requires a significant amount of time and effort from both teachers and students. Unlike traditional lectures, which can be delivered relatively quickly, Socratic questioning requires ongoing dialogue, reflection, and discussion, which can take up more class time. Additionally, the method may not be suitable for all students or subjects. Some students may find the open-ended nature of Socratic questioning uncomfortable, particularly if they're accustomed to more structured forms of learning. Moreover, certain subjects, such as basic arithmetic or factual recall, may not lend themselves well to the Socratic method, as these subjects require the memorization and application of specific information. Despite these challenges, the potential benefits of the Socratic method far outweigh the drawbacks, particularly in developing students' critical thinking, problem-solving, and communication skills. As educational systems worldwide move towards more student-centered, inquiry-based approaches, the Socratic method is increasingly being recognized as a valuable tool for promoting deep learning and intellectual engagement. In an era of information overload, where it is not enough to simply know facts, the ability to think critically and engage in thoughtful dialogue is more important than ever. The Socratic method, with its emphasis on questioning, reflection, and discussion, is ideally suited to preparing students for the complex challenges of the 21st century. As we look to the future of education, it's worth considering whether modern teaching methods can be improved through the application of the Socratic method. Could we enhance learning outcomes by incorporating more dialogue, more inquiry, and more student-driven exploration of knowledge? While the Socratic method may not be the solution to every educational challenge, it certainly provides a powerful framework for promoting deeper, more meaningful learning. By fostering critical thinking, creativity, and intellectual independence, it offers students the tools they need to succeed in an increasingly complex world. Critical thinking is a fundamental skill that plays an essential role in virtually every aspect of life. It allows individuals to approach problems, make decisions, and interact with the world in a thoughtful and reasoned manner. The ability to think critically is not just about being able to analyze information. It is about questioning assumptions, evaluating evidence, considering alternative viewpoints, and drawing conclusions based on logic and reasoning. In a world where information is abundant and opinions are varied, critical thinking is more important than ever. It empowers individuals to navigate complex situations, make informed choices, and engage in constructive dialogue with others. At its core, critical thinking involves actively and skillfully analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information gathered from different sources. It is not about blindly accepting facts or ideas, but about questioning them, exploring their validity, and considering their implications. Critical thinkers do not simply take things at face value. They probe deeper, asking why things are the way they are and how they can be understood from multiple perspectives. This process helps individuals arrive at well-reasoned conclusions that are supported by evidence and logic rather than assumptions or biases. Critical thinking enables people to move beyond surface-level understanding and engage in more profound analysis. The importance of critical thinking is evident in all areas of life, from education to work to personal relationships. In the academic context, Critical thinking allows students to engage with material on a deeper level. Rather than just memorizing facts or accepting information passively, students who use critical thinking actively question the material, assess its relevance, and challenge its assumptions. For example, in a history class, a student might not simply accept the conventional narrative of an event, but instead ask, what were the underlying causes of this event? Were there other factors that contributed to it? How do different historians interpret this event? This approach allows the student to engage with the material in a more meaningful way and to develop a deeper understanding of the subject. In the workplace, critical thinking is essential for making sound decisions, solving problems, and innovating. In many jobs, individuals are required to analyze complex situations, weigh different options, and make decisions that affect the organization's success. Critical thinking helps people evaluate the pros and cons of different courses of action, consider the potential risks and benefits, and make informed choices that are in the best interest of the organization. For example, consider a manager who is tasked with overseeing a project. Critical thinking allows the manager to analyze the project's goals, assess potential obstacles, and develop a strategy that addresses challenges while maximizing the chances of success. Without critical thinking, the manager might make decisions based on incomplete information or without fully considering the consequences of their actions. Critical thinking is also indispensable in navigating the complexities of personal relationships. In social interactions, we often encounter differing opinions, beliefs, and perspectives. The ability to think critically enables individuals to engage with others in a respectful and constructive way, rather than immediately dismissing ideas that differ from our own. Critical thinkers are open to listening, considering alternative viewpoints, and engaging in meaningful conversations. For instance, during a disagreement with a friend, a person who thinks critically might ask themselves, what is the underlying issue here? Why does my friend feel this way? What assumptions are we both making? This approach helps individuals better understand the perspectives of others, fosters empathy, and promotes resolution rather than escalation of conflicts. A key aspect of critical thinking is its ability to help individuals make better decisions. In today's world, where choices are often complex and multifaceted, the ability to critically evaluate options is crucial. Whether making personal decisions about finances, relationships, or health, or professional decisions about business strategy or career direction, critical thinking provides the tools to weigh alternatives carefully and make choices that align with one's goals and values. For example, when deciding whether to take a new job, a person might use critical thinking to evaluate the job's pros and cons, the long-term implications of the move, and whether it aligns with their personal and professional aspirations. Instead of rushing into the decision based on emotions or external pressure, critical thinkers take the time to assess all available information, consider different perspectives, and make a well-informed decision. Critical thinking also plays an essential role in personal growth and self-development. By questioning assumptions and examining one's own beliefs and values, individuals can gain a deeper understanding of themselves. Self-reflection, a key component of critical thinking, helps people evaluate their actions, motivations, and goals. For instance, when faced with a challenge or setback, critical thinkers are able to analyze the situation, identify what went wrong, and consider how they can learn from the experience. Rather than viewing failure as a personal defeat, critical thinkers see it as an opportunity for growth. They ask themselves, what can I learn from this experience? What can I do differently next time? This mindset encourages resilience and fosters personal development by turning obstacles into opportunities for improvement. The process of critical thinking also involves recognizing and mitigating biases. Everyone has personal biases, whether based on upbringing, culture, or life experiences that shape how they perceive the world. These biases can cloud judgment and lead to poor decision-making. Critical thinkers are aware of these biases and actively work to minimize their influence. They strive to evaluate situations and information as objectively as possible, considering all relevant factors before drawing conclusions. For example, a person considering a political issue might be influenced by their own political affiliations. Critical thinking requires them to recognize this bias and to evaluate the issue based on facts and evidence, not just their personal beliefs. This ability to step back and view situations from multiple angles leads to more balanced and well-rounded perspectives. Moreover, critical thinking fosters creativity and problem-solving. By questioning conventional wisdom and considering alternative solutions, critical thinkers are more likely to come up with innovative ideas and approaches. For example, in the tech industry, engineers and designers often use critical thinking to challenge existing technologies and develop new ones. Rather than simply accepting that a product is good enough, critical thinkers ask, how can this be improved? What new features or functions can make this more efficient or user-friendly? This mindset drives innovation and progress across industries. From technology to healthcare to the arts, critical thinking also contributes to effective communication. In both personal and professional contexts, being able to express one's ideas clearly and persuasively is essential. Critical thinking helps individuals develop the skills to organize their thoughts logically, present arguments effectively, and respond to opposing viewpoints in a respectful and thoughtful manner. For example, in a debate, critical thinkers can present well-reasoned arguments, anticipate counterarguments, and engage in productive dialogue. This ability to communicate effectively is essential in today's interconnected world, where collaboration and negotiation are key to success in many fields. In education, critical thinking is central to fostering a generation of lifelong learners who are not just passive recipients of knowledge, but active participants in their learning. Students who are taught to think critically are better equipped to navigate the complexities of modern society, where information is constantly evolving and new challenges arise regularly. By developing the ability to ask questions, analyze information, and evaluate arguments, students can better adapt to changing circumstances and make informed decisions throughout their lives. The educational system must prioritize critical thinking, not just as an academic skill, but as a life skill that prepares students to think independently, solve problems, and contribute meaningfully to society. For instance, in an age of misinformation, critical thinking is particularly vital. Social media, news outlets, and online platforms are full of conflicting information, and being able to distinguish between reliable sources and misleading ones is crucial. Critical thinking allows individuals to assess the credibility of information, identify logical fallacies, and make decisions based on facts rather than emotions or hearsay. For example, a person who encounters a news story on social media might ask, what is the source of this information? Are there other reliable sources that confirm this claim? What evidence supports the argument being made? These questions help individuals sift through the noise and arrive at conclusions that are based on reliable information. The importance of critical thinking extends beyond personal decision-making and problem-solving. It is also central to creating a more just and equitable society. By questioning the status quo and evaluating societal structures, individuals can identify inequalities, challenge unfair practices, and work toward positive change. For example, social activists often use critical thinking to analyze social issues and propose solutions that address systemic problems. By questioning assumptions about race, gender, and power, critical thinkers can contribute to creating a society that is more inclusive and just. In conclusion, critical thinking is a crucial skill that underpins almost every aspect of life. It allows individuals to make better decisions, solve problems creatively, engage in meaningful dialogue, and grow personally. Whether in education, work, personal relationships, or societal issues, critical thinking empowers individuals to approach challenges with a thoughtful and reasoned mindset. In a world that is increasingly complex and fast-paced, critical thinking helps individuals navigate uncertainty, adapt to change, and make informed choices that align with their values and goals. It is not just a skill, but a mindset that fosters lifelong learning, growth, and positive impact. In everyday life, the Socratic Method, with its emphasis on asking thought-provoking questions to stimulate critical thinking and deeper understanding, can be applied in a variety of settings. While Socrates himself used this method in philosophical discussions, its principles extend well beyond the classroom and into our professional and personal lives. Whether in meetings, discussions, or even casual debates, the act of questioning assumptions and encouraging others to explore their own beliefs can lead to more thoughtful, collaborative, and productive outcomes. This process not only helps individuals arrive at better conclusions, but also strengthens communication, fosters respect, and enhances collective problem-solving. Consider a scenario in a workplace meeting where a team is discussing a new marketing strategy. The team is divided on which direction to take. One side advocates for focusing on digital advertising, while the other side believes in a more traditional approach with print media and billboards. Tensions are rising as both groups present their arguments, each convinced that their strategy is the right one. The conversation seems to be at a stalemate, with little room for compromise. This is where the application of the Socratic Method can break the deadlock and lead the team toward a solution that everyone can agree on. Rather than allowing the debate to continue along its current path, a team leader or a facilitator could intervene by asking a series of open-ended questions. Instead of directly endorsing one strategy over the other, the leader might ask, what specific goals are we hoping to achieve with this marketing campaign? Are we prioritizing brand awareness, lead generation, or customer retention? By asking these questions, the leader shifts the focus from the debate over which strategy is better to the broader goals of the campaign. This approach encourages the team to think critically about the ultimate purpose of their marketing efforts and to reframe the discussion around shared objectives. From this point, the facilitator could continue asking questions like, how do we know that digital advertising will achieve our goals better than print media? Are there specific metrics or case studies that support this? Or can we integrate both strategies in a way that leverages the strengths of each? These questions encourage team members to examine the evidence and assumptions behind their respective strategies, rather than relying on personal preference or tradition. It forces them to think about the actual effectiveness of their proposed approaches, pushing them to consider real-world data and outcomes. The Socratic questioning in this situation serves several purposes. First, it helps each side move beyond their initial positions and gain a deeper understanding of what each strategy can offer. By framing the conversation in terms of shared goals and evidence-based reasoning, the team is encouraged to work together toward a solution that reflects their collective interests. The open-ended nature of the questions ensures that all team members are involved in the discussion, contributing their expertise and ideas to the process. As a result, the team can move toward a more balanced and well-informed decision, one that incorporates the strengths of both digital and traditional marketing strategies. This example highlights how the Socratic Method can be used to facilitate group discussions, clarify goals, and foster collaboration. By asking probing questions, the facilitator steers the conversation in a more productive direction, helping the team navigate through disagreements and find common ground. The method encourages critical thinking, mutual respect, and a focus on evidence and logic rather than on personal opinions or preconceived notions. In another example, let's imagine a situation in a family where two parents are debating how best to discipline their child. One parent believes in using timeouts and removing privileges as a way to teach their child about consequences, while the other prefers to engage in calm discussions with the child to explain why their behavior was wrong. Both parents are well-intentioned, but find it difficult to come to a consensus about the most effective approach. In this case, the Socratic Method could help them engage in a constructive dialogue that leads to a better understanding of each other's perspectives and a more balanced solution. Instead of immediately defending their own approach, each parent could begin by asking questions that explore the underlying principles behind the other's viewpoint. For example, one parent might ask, "What do you think a child learns when they're given timeouts?" This question encourages the other parent to reflect on the effectiveness of their approach and whether it truly addresses the child's understanding of the behavior. The other parent might respond with a question like, "How does the child benefit from a calm discussion? Do you think that always works? Or could there be times when a more direct consequence is needed?" By asking questions that explore each other's beliefs and assumptions, both parents can gain a deeper understanding of the strengths and limitations of their respective methods. This dialogue can lead them to reconsider their initial positions and, in the process, discover ways to combine the two approaches. They might agree that timeouts are effective for certain behaviors, but they could also recognize the value of talking through issues to help their child understand the reasons behind their actions. This collaborative approach, guided by Socratic questioning, allows the parents to arrive at a more nuanced and effective solution that takes into account both discipline and communication. In both of these examples, the Socratic method encourages individuals to step back from their own viewpoints and consider the broader context. It shifts the focus from confrontation to collaboration and promotes a deeper exploration of underlying assumptions. The goal is not to win the argument, but to uncover the best possible solution by asking the right questions. Through this process, individuals and groups can arrive at more thoughtful, well-reasoned conclusions that take into account multiple perspectives and lead to better outcomes. Another key benefit of applying the Socratic method in real-life situations is its ability to promote self-reflection. Often, when we are faced with a problem or decision, we are so focused on defending our own point of view that we fail to consider other possibilities. Socratic questioning challenges us to question our assumptions and reflect on the reasons behind our beliefs and decisions. For example, in a business setting, a leader might ask themselves, "Why do I believe this particular approach will succeed? What evidence do I have to support this belief? What are the potential risks or drawbacks?" These questions encourage the leader to think critically about their own thinking, leading to more informed and balanced decision-making. Similarly, in personal relationships, the Socratic method can help individuals better understand their own feelings and motivations. For instance, during a disagreement with a friend or partner, a person might ask themselves, "What am I really upset about? Is it the specific issue at hand? Or is there something deeper that I need to address?" This kind of self-reflection, prompted by Socratic questioning, can lead to greater self-awareness and emotional intelligence, helping individuals approach conflicts with more empathy and understanding. The power of Socratic questioning lies in its ability to transform ordinary conversations into opportunities for deeper exploration and growth. Whether in a professional meeting, a family discussion, or a personal conflict, the method encourages individuals to engage with each other in a meaningful way, asking questions that lead to greater understanding, empathy, and collaboration. By challenging assumptions, promoting critical thinking, and fostering open dialogue, the Socratic method can help people find better solutions, strengthen relationships, and make more informed decisions. In today's fast-paced world, where information is abundant and perspectives are diverse, the ability to engage in thoughtful, constructive conversations is more important than ever. The Socratic method provides a framework for navigating complex issues, whether in business, personal relationships, or broader societal debates. It encourages people to move beyond surface-level arguments and to explore the underlying causes, motivations, and assumptions that shape our beliefs and actions. Through this process, individuals and groups can arrive at more thoughtful, well-rounded conclusions that reflect a deeper understanding of the issues at hand. Ultimately, the Socratic method is not just a tool for solving problems, but a way of engaging with a world that promotes continuous learning, growth, and collaboration. By asking the right questions, we can uncover new insights, challenge our assumptions, and develop solutions that are not only well-reasoned, but also more inclusive and effective. Whether in the boardroom, at the dinner table, or in the classroom, the Socratic method provides a powerful approach to fostering meaningful conversations and achieving better outcomes. The Socratic method is more than just a philosophical concept, or a teaching technique. It represents a timeless approach to thinking, learning, and engaging with the world. Throughout the dialogues of Socrates, we see how the process of asking the right questions can lead to profound insights, personal growth, and the discovery of truth. From questioning the very foundations of morality and knowledge to examining the assumptions that guide our daily lives, Socrates' method encourages individuals to think critically, engage in meaningful dialogue, and uncover deeper layers of understanding. One of the key lessons from Socrates' method is the importance of independent thinking. In a world that is increasingly saturated with information, opinions, and external influences, it is easy to fall into the trap of accepting what we are told without critically examining it. The Socratic Method teaches us to question everything, not just the information presented to us, but also the underlying assumptions that shape our worldview. Socrates famously declared, "I know that I know nothing," which reflects his belief that true wisdom comes from recognizing the limits of one's knowledge. By acknowledging our ignorance, we open ourselves up to continuous learning and discovery. Independent thinking involves more than just rejecting others' ideas. It requires us to engage in a process of self-reflection, self-examination, and intellectual humility. When we think independently, we do not simply accept the status quo or conform to societal expectations. Instead, we take responsibility for our own thoughts and beliefs, challenging them when necessary and refining them based on new evidence and insights. This process can be uncomfortable, as it often requires us to confront our own biases, preconceived notions, and uncertainties. However, it is through this discomfort that we grow intellectually and personally. Socrates believed that true knowledge comes not from passively accepting ideas, but from actively seeking the truth through questioning and dialogue. The search for truth is another central lesson from the Socratic Method. Socrates' dialogues reveal his commitment to uncovering deeper truths about life, morality, and the world around him, rather than simply accepting conventional wisdom or relying on authority figures. Socrates sought to probe the complexities of the human condition by asking challenging questions that force people to examine their beliefs and assumptions. Through the Socratic process, individuals are encouraged to seek truth not as a final, static destination, but as an ongoing journey of discovery. This search for truth is not limited to philosophical discussions. In everyday life, we constantly encounter situations where we must navigate complex issues and make decisions that affect our lives and the lives of others. The Socratic Method encourages us to ask questions like, what do I really believe about this issue? What assumptions am I making? What evidence do I have to support my beliefs? These questions help us to see beyond surface-level information and gain a deeper understanding of the issues we face. Whether we are dealing with personal relationships, professional challenges, or societal problems, the pursuit of truth through critical inquiry allows us to make more informed decisions and avoid falling victim to misinformation or bias. Perhaps the most important lesson we can learn from Socrates is the value of critical thinking. Critical thinking is the ability to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information in a way that leads to sound conclusions and well-reasoned decisions. It involves not just accepting things at face value, but actively engaging with information, questioning assumptions, and considering alternative viewpoints. Critical thinking is essential in every area of life, from academia to business to personal relationships. The Socratic Method, with its emphasis on questioning and dialogue, fosters critical thinking by encouraging individuals to think for themselves and to question the validity of the information they encounter. In a world where information is often overwhelming and contradictory, the ability to critically assess ideas and arguments is more important than ever. Socrates understood that knowledge is not simply about accumulating facts, but about developing the intellectual skills to think critically, reason logically, and engage in thoughtful reflection. By applying the Socratic Method to our own thinking, we can sharpen our minds, improve our decision-making, and become more effective problem solvers. Through his method of questioning, Socrates demonstrated that the pursuit of knowledge is not a solitary endeavor, but a collective process that involves dialogue, reflection, and collaboration. By engaging in meaningful conversations with others, we can expand our understanding of the world and uncover new insights that we might not have discovered on our own. The Socratic Method encourages us to engage with others respectfully, listen to their perspectives, and question our own assumptions. It fosters an environment of intellectual openness and mutual respect, where the goal is not to win an argument, but to explore the truth together. As we reflect on the lessons of the Socratic Method, it becomes clear that its principles have far-reaching implications for personal growth, professional success, and societal progress. By cultivating independent thinking, seeking the truth, and applying critical thinking, we can become more thoughtful, informed, and engaged individuals. Whether we are navigating complex issues at work, making decisions in our personal lives, or engaging in discussions with others, the ability to ask the right questions and think critically can lead to better outcomes and a deeper understanding of the world around us. One of the most powerful aspects of the Socratic Method is its emphasis on the power of questions. Socrates believed that the right question could unlock the door to deeper knowledge and insight. By asking questions, we not only gain information but also challenge assumptions, provoke reflection, and spark creativity. The act of asking questions is central to the process of learning and personal growth. It encourages us to look beyond the surface, to explore multiple perspectives, and to think more deeply about the issues we face. Questions are the key to unlocking new ideas, discovering hidden truths, and fostering intellectual curiosity. The Socratic Method teaches us that questions are not just tools for gathering information, but instruments for exploration and discovery. Whether we are trying to solve a problem, understand a complex concept, or make a decision, the right questions can help us gain clarity and insight. By asking the right questions, we can challenge our assumptions, refine our thinking, and ultimately arrive at a more nuanced and accurate understanding of the world. A key takeaway from the Socratic Method is that questions are not meant to be answered immediately, but to provoke deeper thinking and reflection. Socrates often led his students to a place of uncertainty, where they realized that their initial answers were insufficient or incomplete. This process of questioning and self-examination is uncomfortable, but it is also essential for intellectual growth. Socrates believed that it was in these moments of doubt and confusion that true learning takes place. When we allow ourselves to sit with uncertainty, we open ourselves up to new insights and possibilities. In the context of personal development, the Socratic Method encourages us to question ourselves. It challenges us to think about our beliefs, motivations, and actions, and to evaluate whether they're truly aligned with our values and goals. This self-examination helps us become more self-aware and intentional in our lives. Rather than reacting impulsively or mindlessly, we learn to pause, reflect, and ask ourselves the right questions. What is driving my actions? Is this decision consistent with my long-term goals? What do I really want to achieve? By asking these questions, we can make more thoughtful and deliberate choices that lead to personal fulfillment and growth. Finally, one of the most important lessons from Socrates is the idea of intellectual humility. Socrates famously acknowledged that he knew nothing, which was a radical stance in a time when philosophers and teachers were expected to have all the answers. This humility is essential for true learning. It reminds us that knowledge is not static, and there is always more to learn and discover. When we approach the world with humility and curiosity, we open ourselves up to new ideas, perspectives, and possibilities. By embracing the idea that we do not have all the answers, we become more receptive to learning and more capable of growth. Socrates' method is a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is not about reaching a final destination, but about engaging in an ongoing process of questioning, learning, and self-reflection. The path to wisdom is a journey that requires us to continually question our beliefs, challenge our assumptions, and seek deeper understanding. By applying the principles of the Socratic Method in our own lives, we can cultivate a mindset of curiosity, openness, and critical thinking that will serve us well in all aspects of life. In conclusion, the lessons from Socrates' method are timeless and universally applicable. By embracing the power of questioning, fostering independent thinking, seeking the truth, and practicing critical thinking, we can transform the way we approach the world and make better decisions in our personal and professional lives. As Socrates taught us, the key to unlocking deeper knowledge and understanding lies not in having all the answers, but in asking the right questions and engaging in thoughtful, reflective dialogue. So, remember, questions are the key to unlocking the door to wisdom. Don't hesitate to ask them, for it is through the process of questioning that we gain deeper insights and move closer to the truth. Wow, what an incredible journey we've taken today through the world of Socratic questioning. I hope you now understand just how transformative the Socratic method can be in your own life. From sparking deeper thought to uncovering hidden truths, the power of asking the right questions is something we can all use to elevate our thinking, improve our decision-making, and truly understand the world around us. Whether in personal relationships, business decisions, or everyday situations, the Socratic method helps us break free from the limits of surface-level thinking and dive deep into the core of complex issues. So, what questions will you ask today? How will you use questioning to find solutions, challenge your assumptions, and unlock new ideas? Remember, the answers you seek are often just a question away. If you found value in today's video and you want to keep exploring timeless wisdom and powerful tools for self-growth, don't forget to like, share with others who might benefit from these insights, and subscribe to the channel for more. And if you feel like showing even more support, consider sending a super thanks. Every bit of support helps us create more in-depth content that can inspire and challenge you to grow. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How has the Socratic method impacted the way you think? What questions have helped you unlock new perspectives? Drop your ideas and experiences, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for being a part of this community of curious, critical thinkers. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep discovering the world with an open mind.